I asked my staff to just to give me some stats on I'm a guy who believes in good news. But the rate of inflation in this country is down by about half what it was a couple of years ago. We have, I think, something like 13 million jobs. 13 million people have jobs today that didn't have jobs 3 years ago. That's more than about a half dozen states up and down the East Coast around the country. We have in place a bipartisan infrastructure bill. We didn't just say bipartisan infrastructure week and bipartisan infrastructure month. We said we're going to have one for our country. I'll never forget, Joe Biden had been elected president, and he calls me Tommy, like in Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you see me? He called me, and he'd been president for like, I don't know, not even a week, and said, Tommy. And I said, yes, Your Royal Highness. He said, I want us to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill. I want you to put a bipartisan infrastructure bill on my desk within the first 12 months of my time as president. And I said, aye, Captain. I'm a retired Navy captain, Vietnam veteran. Do we have any veterans here? Let's put our hands together for our veterans. Yeah. Thank you. Said, I want a bipartisan infrastructure bill on my desk, and I want you guys to produce it within 12 months. Lo and behold, I looked around. I chair the Environment and Public Works Committee. I asked a couple of our Republican colleagues to join me, and a Democrat colleague to join me. And a week later, we went to the White House. And we were there, and Pete Buttigieg was there. Kamala joined us by Zoom or whatever it was, the president, and we sat and talked, and he said, here's my ask. He said, I'm asking for you to put on my desk by the end of this year a bipartisan infrastructure bill that does roads, highways, bridges, transit, and it helps us with respect to our battle on climate change. And I said, is that all you want? He said, that would be a good starter, and then we'll take it from there. Well, I think 10, 11 months later, we were like gathered in front of the White House lawn, and we had hundreds, thousands of people actually gathered there, including the folks who went with me, Democrats and Republicans from our committee, to House and Senate, who helped write the legislation. I'm a big believer in what some of the things that Albert Einstein used to say. He used to say, in adversity lies opportunity. Think about that. In adversity lies opportunity. I also believe that bipartisan solutions are lasting solutions. And that's been my guiding, guiding principles forever. My sister and I were born in West Virginia. Anybody here from West Virginia? Oh, hi. Almost heaven. Yeah, that's where we grew up and moved off to Danville, Virginia, and grew up some more. And I was lucky enough to win a Navy ROTC scholarship, went to Ohio State, and studied economics, and spent a lot of years, 5 years on active duty during the Vietnam War. I was letter of commission the year that was the worst year in the Vietnam War. And that's when I graduated and headed off to Southeast Asia. And I learned a lot in the Navy. One of the things I learned in the Navy is leadership by example. One of the things I learned in the example in the Navy is in adversity is opportunity, lies opportunity. And I got to the train station this morning. There's a lot of adults and everybody, and people said hello, they know me. For the most part, I've been doing this forever and serving for them. And this one little boy was there with his mom. And they came up to me, and the mom said the train was just about to come in and to bring me down here. And she said, would you be in a picture with my son? And I said, no, I'm busy. No, I said, I'd be happy to. And I said to the little boy, I said, how old are you? And he said, I'm 7. He said, I'm 7. And I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, president. Is that something? He said, president. And he thinks there's still some hope for this country. And I think he's right. And one of the keys, we faced some great challenges not just as a nation, but as a planet. I got to know a guy named Macron over the last couple of years, president of France, and he spoke at a joint session of the House and Senate a couple of years ago. Some of us were there, and I'll never forget what he said at the end of his remarks. He said, this is the only planet we're going to have. He said, there's no second planet. This is it. This is all we're going to have, and we have to make the most of it. As it turns out, there is adversity and opportunity, and there's a way to address climate change, climate crisis. Last year, worst, highest temperatures around the planet, hottest temp we've ever had on the planet. We have anybody here from California? I've been following the weather. We have a son who lives out there in the Bay Area. I used to be stationed out there for a number of years, but it's been raining in California. I mean, not just raining, it's been coming down in floods. And it's stuff like that all over the world. That's the bad news. The good news is we know what's causing it. And the good news is we know how to address it. And I think the good news is that we have bipartisan recognition of that and bipartisan leadership that what's causing it and what we can do to fix it. I've had the opportunity to go to something called the COP, C-O-P, which is an international meeting either in Scotland or this last year in the United Arab Emirates. And we had pretty much agreement on what we needed to do in the United States is providing leadership, which is great. Let me think. I want to go back. Anybody here have a car? Anybody here drive a car? You know, anybody here drive a General Motors car? Anybody know a GM car? Yeah. I used to go to the auto show every year, Detroit Auto Show. Anybody ever go to the Detroit Auto Show? It's a great. Anybody here from Michigan here? Anybody who's a Detroit Tigers fan? Lifelong Tiger fan. 7 days. The pitchers and catchers report for spring training. For me, one of the happiest days of the year. But I was at the Detroit Auto Show. I've gone many years. Delaware, we used to build more cars, trucks, and vans per capita than any nation, than any state in the country. Little Delaware. And we had a big Chrysler plant. We had a big GM plant. And about 10, 11 years ago, you know, they always have like at the auto show there, they have a car of the year, they have like the truck of the year or something like that. And about 10, 11 years ago, the car of the year was a Chevrolet Volt, V-O-L-T. And I met a young woman who was a rising star at General Motors, named Mary Barra. Mary Barra, that some of you heard of. She's now the CEO of General Motors. She actually, I think, heads a business roundtable. She's a big deal and a very smart cookie as well. And I was congratulating her 10, 11, 12 years ago on having the car of the year. And I was with her again about 10 years later. I was trying to convince General Motors to do some things in terms of fuel efficiency and reducing the emission of their cars, trucks, and vans. And she said these words to me. She said, you know, I'm all in on electric. She said, that's where the future is. She said, that's what we need to do, and that's but she said, in order for us to sell the cars, trucks, and vans that we are going to build in the years to come, we need 3 things. And I said, well, what are those? And she said, first, she said 300-mile range on a charge, 300 miles. And she said, that's on us, GM. She said, the second thing that we need is not just, we need the ability to charge batteries in electric vehicles, cars, trucks, vans, in minutes, not hours. In minutes, not hours. She said, that's on us, the industry. She said, third thing we need is the ability to charge them all over the country. All over the country, so people don't have to worry about range anxiety, but they know that they'll be able to take those cars, trucks, and vans from GM or anybody else and get them charged and go where they and their families need to go. This is a shared responsibility. Like most things, this is a shared responsibility. Part of the responsibility is on the industry. Part of the responsibility is on state and local governments. part of the responsibility is on the federal government. And I fully embrace that, and I'm pretty sure that the folks in AASHTO and from the 50 states around the country understand that as well. My staff was good enough to actually write a speech, none of which was in what I've just said. They were sitting out there moaning and thinking, my God, why doesn't he just go to a speech? But it is a good speech. And I'm going to do that here for a few minutes. But the members of my staff, would you all come up here? Just folks that are on my team, just come on up here. Jordan, tell them. Jordan, tell them who you are.
Hi, I'm Jordan Baugh. I'm Senior Policy Advisor for Transportation for the Senator on the Environment and Public Works Committee staff.
Yeah, come on, tell them who you are.
I'm Linnea Savy. I support Jordan on your transportation portfolio in EPW.
Have you ever heard me say to people that the only reason I have had any success in my life is because I surround myself with people smarter than me? Have you ever heard me say that?
No, never heard.
Well, I'm saying it again this morning. Thank you. Nice round of applause. Come on. Woo! Let me just, this is some good stuff. You ready? All right, here we go. The installation of new EV chargers is gaining momentum across our country. I feel it, and I suspect you do too. Not as quickly maybe as we would like in order to fight climate change, but it's not the only thing we have to do to fight climate change. You've probably heard these numbers before, about 30% of carbon emissions in this country come from the cars, trucks, and vans that we drive. Maybe another 25% comes from our electric power plants, that generate the electricity we use. Maybe another 20% of our electricity comes from, or the carbon comes from not just from the cars, trucks, and vans, but actually from manufacturing operations. Think asphalt plants, think steel mills. Those are the three major sources of carbon emissions. The biggest of those three is the vehicles that we drive. My wife and I have two vehicles. One is a gasoline-powered vehicle. The other is an electric vehicle. Anybody here have an EV? Anybody here have an EV? Anybody would like to have an EV? I would like to buy one that's partly used. Trying to. My wife has never driven our EV. Never driven. Can you believe that? And I think she's afraid because it goes so fast, and it's so much fun to drive. But she'll catch on to it. Someday I'll come home and I'll look in the garage and the car will be gone, and I'll know Martha's gone with it. Hopefully, but not with some guy. It's just always waiting for me. But. Let me just say a couple of examples. Just anybody here from PA? Anybody from PA? Commonwealth? All right. For our friends from PA, let me just share a number. With $175 million allocated over 5 years, our friends to the north, PA, are taking steps to create an extensive EV charging network that is strategically built to ensure accessibility and reliability. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation has already awarded conditional contracts, I'm told, of 56 projects across some 37 counties. We don't have 37 counties in Delaware. We have 3, and that's about all we could handle. But in Ohio, where I went to school, anybody from Ohio? Oh, wait, let me hear you say, OH? How's this? I'm a Ohio State boy, Navy ROTC. Graduated at the height of the Vietnam War and got out of there and headed for Southeast Asia. Not too smart. But in Ohio, progress is underway, I'm told, with at least a dozen NEVI compliant charging stations already operational. They're gearing up for, I'm told, 27 additional fast charging stations purposefully located along interstates for maximum convenience. And while we're making progress, there's no doubt there's more work to do. I have a million sayings. We call them aphorisms, but one of my favorite sayings that I've picked up along the way is, everything I do, I know I can do better. Everything I do, I know I can do better. And whether you're from Delaware, Pennsylvania, Ohio, we can all do better. We can learn from each other. I was privileged as governor of Delaware for 8 years to chair the National Governors Association and to build coalitions with other states, Democrats and Republicans, and with the private sector as well. But today, I get to be chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee. And I think earlier today, was Shelley Capito here? Did she talk about me? Don't tell her I said this or her staff, but I love Shelley. I love Shelley. I was born in Beckley. She's from up in the northern part of the state. And her dad used to be governor of Delaware when I was just a little boy, when I was first born. And we have the opportunity to together to lead the Environment and Public Works Committee. And I know I mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure bill that the president urged us to pass, and we did. But Shelley and I managed the bill on the floor. One of the most meaningful pieces of legislation, maybe in our lifetimes. But we did that together. And I really do believe that the bipartisan solutions are lasting solutions. And I think she does as well. But I'm reminded, I've gone, let me just, I'm going to skip over some, let me just say VMT, vehicle miles traveled. I think the things are worth having, they're worth paying for. This is a shared responsibility in terms of paying for it as well. There's a role for the federal government, there's a role for state and local governments as well, and there's a role for us as individuals, as people that are using, cars, trucks, and vans. It's a shared responsibility, and I would put that out there for all of us to keep in mind. Now, my text says it. Things here. Listen to this. It says, "I am confident that if all levels of government and the private sector continue to work together, there will soon come a day when consumers considering an EV purchase will not be deterred by a lack of charging access." And as it goes on to say, as an EV driver myself, I can attest to their appeal. And I'm pleased to say that more and more Americans are coming to appreciate EVs as much as I do, and a lot more than my wife does. But this is work that starts and ends on the ground in our communities, and you're a big part of that, and we're grateful to be your partner. I really do believe, I'm going to be serious just for a minute. I really do believe that bipartisan solutions are lasting solutions. My parents were both Republicans who were born in a coal mining town in West Virginia. And my dad later worked for, he built, fixed wrecked cars. He was a body man, and later was worked for Nationwide Insurance, was a claims adjuster. My mom worked at a Five and Dime, and that's where we got our start. And my parents were both Republicans. And later on, when I ran for state treasurer at the age of 29, and I told my parents who were living in Florida, and I told them that, she said, "Well, you're running as a Republican, aren't you?" And I said, "No, Mom, I'm running as a Democrat." And she recalled the time that I was sitting in the back seat of my grandfather's car at this traffic light in Beckley, and with my sister beside me, and I was about 5 years old, and I was playing with the lock on the door, and I opened the door, and I fell out on at a stoplight. And they dusted me off, and they put me back in the car, and we took off. My mother said, when I told her I'd decided to run as a Democrat, she said, "I remember when you fell out of your grandfather's car. And we always wondered if there'd be permanent damage." And she said, "I think there is." I hope you have loving moms and dads as I did. But I really do. I've said it more than I need to, but bipartisan solutions are really critical. I think we've got a president who gets that, and we've had a bunch of presidents that I've served with over the years that have gotten that as well. And hopefully, whoever ultimately succeeds Joe Biden will believe that as well. Henry Ford. I don't know if any of you have any quotes of Henry Ford, but let me give you one to maybe take with you today. And it goes something like this. It's a short one. If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. Think about that. If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. And the last one I'll say again, because it bears repeating. There's so much that we can complain about and be worried about around our country, around this nation, and around the world. But in adversity lies opportunity. there's great opportunity here. And we have seen in the last, 3 years, creation of 13 million jobs. Rate of inflation is down by half from below what it was just 3, 4, 5 years ago. And can we do better? Sure, we can do better. And one of the best ways to ensure that we do better is to continue to find ways to work together, to share credit, and to realize that the days for our country, the best days of our country, lie ahead. And with your leadership, and if they'll make me chairman for life, I'm just kidding. They'll never do that, and I would not want to do that. We have other good people coming up. They will rather take my place and ultimately take Shelley's place, but in the meantime, we'll provide the best leadership that we can with friends in the House, Democrats and Republicans, our president, and all of you, and we'll make hopefully those for whom we work proud. Last word. Some of you heard me tell this story. This is my favorite story. I remember being up all night about 2 or 3 years ago working on the Inflation Reduction Act. And we finished up. It was almost dawn. We'd been up all night. And I remember Kamala was, as vice president, had been drawn in to preside over the Senate. And whoever's presiding over the Senate is referred to as Madam President or Mr. President. So she's up there, and it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And we have just voted on the Inflation Reduction Act and passed it by one vote, her vote in the end. And the place goes in mayhem. It's just people crying. It's amazing. I walk up. She's like right up there presiding, and the folks are like hugging each other, and some are crying, and some are happy. But anyway, I said to her, she's back in the door, and basically getting everybody to quiet down. And I said to her, Madam President, and I said, this would never have happened without you. And she said to me, Senator Carper, this would never have happened without you. And I think we played a little bit of a role, and I hope so. But anyway, I said goodbye. We finished our business. The sun was coming up. I went and got on a train and went back to Delaware. And I got off in Wilmington. And has any of you ever heard of Wawa? Has anybody heard of Wawa? I love Wawa. People like the coffee there. I like everything. I like the people. I like the music. Have great restrooms. I mean, who could ask for more? Anyway, so I go to Wawa on my way home, and it's about 7 in the morning. And I get a cup of coffee, and I go to pay for it. And the lady who's the cashier, she said, bless you. The lady who's the cashier said to me, she said, Senator, I know where you've been. You've been up all night, haven't you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, your money's no good for a small cup of coffee. And I said, could I get a big cup of coffee? And she said, no. Said, your money's only good for a small cup of coffee. And so I said, thank you. And I was about to leave, and she said this. She said, just like Nicole has 2 boys, Martha and I have 3 big boys now. But she said to me, she said, I have a son and a daughter. They're almost 10 years old. And I want to make sure that they have a planet to grow up on and a planet to grow old on. A planet to grow up on and a planet to grow old on. Well, I said to her, I want to make sure that you do too, that we do too. But I also want to make sure they have good jobs, that they can support themselves and their family. The great thing about meeting the challenge of climate change is, I don't know that you can have it all, but we can certainly have a safer planet and a future for our kids and our grandchildren and a whole lot of jobs. And we're proving that every day. Thank you for being our partners. Thank you for your leadership in our 50 states. God bless you all. And sometime when you're just looking for a great place to go for a vacation, and you say, where could we go? Well, the state that has more 5-star beaches than any in America is Delaware. And we have no sales tax. and we have some pretty good roads, highways, and bridges. And we'll be happy to put the welcome mat out for all of you and welcome you to the first state, the state that started a nation all those years ago. And every now and then we have some problems and some challenges, but we have been blessed for years, for decades, for centuries with leadership that helps get us through that. Thank you all for providing that leadership today. And we love you and look forward to continue to being your partner. Thanks so much. God bless.